I am an autistic Touhou fan. There are also several other autistic Touhou fans. From my 4.5 years in the Touhou community, I've observed various ways the series appeals to me because of my autism. I wanted to share my unique perspective on this topic, so here I am. I want to stress right away though that autism comes in many different shapes and forms. What I say in this video is not a representation of all autistic people or all autistic Touhou fans. From a macro level, Touhou is well suited for hyperfixations. A hyperfixation is what it sounds like, a major fixation on something, and many autistic people have hyperfixations. The origins of characters as spins on different parts of mythology means that there's a lot to imagine for each one, and the world-building possibilities for an individual to do are quite expansive from this. There's over 100 canon characters at this point too, so within the main Touhou series itself, there's a lot to divulge in. And there's multiple forms of media, tons of manga, games designed to be replayed over and over again, and all of that sweet music. But Touhou is more than just what Zune makes. When my main hyperfixation was Fire Emblem, I was having a great time going through everything. But eventually, that content ran dry. That happens with most series. Touhou's tolerance for fan-made works means that there's always some new high-quality Touhou content to find, whether it be a fan game or a music album. I've been in this community for a long time, but I'm nowhere near close to experiencing everything Touhou has to offer. And of course, there's room to create my own Touhou works. The idea of your own Gensokyo stems from the fact that with all the many interpretations around, your specific version of Touhou in your mind is valid. So from the outset, Touhou's got a lot of appeal for some autistic people. Then to the micro level. As I mentioned before, autism comes in many shapes and forms. A lot of autistic people relate to different Touhou characters, but there's no one character who's canonically or definitively autistic. Instead, it's just based on how someone feels. For me, the two characters in Touhou I relate to are Kokoro and Reimu. I've talked about Kokoro before. At a glance, she might seem like a negative stereotype. Oh, autistic people are emotionless. But that's not who Kokoro is. Kokoro is a person who feels a lot of emotions in her mind, but doesn't express them in a way that's traditional to society. Her emotions can overwhelm her internally, which is something that happens to me and other autistic people. But importantly, she learns how to express herself in her own way. No one in the series tries to force her to smile. She figures out her own sense of identity, and continues to show her emotions through her masks. Here's a bit of vocabulary. Masking is when an autistic person acts less autistic, often to try to blend in. For example, for me, I consider masking staying involved socially at a party. I used to try to do this, but now, if I'm not having fun at a party, I'll either just leave early or go to another room to be by myself. From my perspective, despite having masks, Kokoro cannot mask herself. Her arc isn't about her learning how to make facial expressions. Instead, it's her learning how she feels internally. She doesn't have to change her face. She does what she wants to do, with direct statements and direct emotions through her literal masks. The directness is the type of life I want to live. Then there's Reimu. This one has an entire Twitter thread that's a bit famous for autistic Touhou fans. First, Reimu has a lot of things that I just relate to. In Wild and Horned Hermit, it's established that Kasen's already met Reimu some time before Chapter 1. But Reimu doesn't recognize her in the first chapter because she has trouble with faces. Face blindness is a thing that can happen in autism, and it's something I definitely have. It usually takes me a few weeks of interaction before I can recognize someone from their face. I often have to rely on hair or voice. This also isn't a trait that pops up much in fictional characters, so having it be applied to Reimu is cool. Another one is hyperfixations. While yes, it's her job, This passage from the strange creators of Outer World, where Reimu gushes about finally getting to meet a Niue, reminds me of divulging into my own special interests. At one point in Wild and Horned Hermit, Reimu is sick. Marissa and Kasen are worried, but Reimu had actually stayed up late reading books from Kosuzu, and is too embarrassed to tell them. Her voracious appetite for books to the detriment of her health is also something I can relate with. I read all of One Piece in 3 weeks, and lost many nights of sleep. When I get into something, I really get into it. I mean, yeah. Reimu's the same. And lastly, with these little things, perspective taking. Reimu cannot comprehend keeping a rabbit as a pet instead of food, because she can only think of how she does things in this moment. Likewise, I often get stuck in my own perspectives, failing to comprehend how others might think. There's many more little things, but these were the ones I identified with the most. So, there are all those little bits that can add up, and I can be like, damn, she's just like me, for real, for real. But this isn't the main reason I love to think that Reimu was autistic. In Wild and Horned Hermit Chapter 5, the still new Kasen gets fed up with Reimu's attitude, and forces her to come to her house and train. After some harsh training, Reimu comes back determined to be a proper shrine maiden. But then, Kasen gets a visit from Komachi. Komachi's known Reimu for longer, and tells Kasen, "You still don't know her very well. Huh. Reimu's base desires are human desires, and there's nothing really wrong with them. She'll run out of energy and forget the entire thing." Sure enough, Reimu goes back to being Reimu soon after. Kasen made a mistake. Kasen was trying to make Reimu act less like Reimu, and more like, well, Kasen. From an autistic lens, Kasen made the same mistake many parents of autistic children make, trying to make a child act less autistic. From then on, we often instead see Kasen try to adapt to Reimu. She gives Reimu an idea to make money later on, she laughs at Reimu's antics, and she grows to love Reimu. She doesn't love Reimu for the girl that she wants her to be, but instead loves her for the girl that she is. Reimu is known for being direct and honest, another autistic trait that definitely fits. But here's the thing, people don't usually teach her to be less direct or less honest. That honesty and directness is why a lot of people love her. The Oni are the prime example I can think of. Suika loves Reimu's honesty, and Zanmu is impressed by Reimu's attitude. There's other characters who appreciate Reimu's differences too. Remilia is fascinated by Reimu following Touhou 6. Aya often follows Reimu around for scoops because of her unorthodox approach. And of course, Marissa. Marissa understands Reimu better than everyone else, and loves who she is. She's there for Reimu when she does need an extra perspective, but she also doesn't try to make Reimu act more neurotypical. She is the perfect autism friend, and reminds me a lot of my friends. This is what I think makes Reimu so great in terms of autism. In Gensokyo, people aren't trying to force Reimu to be more, quote, normal. Normal isn't really normal, it's just what neurotypical people do. Instead, people learn about how Reimu acts, and how to communicate with her. Gensokyo supports her differences, and these differences are even why some people become friends with her. And when viewed through the lens of autism, I see a world that I want. I want a world where instead of autistic people being forced to act more neurotypical, neurotypical people learn about how autistic people think and act. Autistic people should not have to mask because other people feel uncomfortable. Is me not wanting to interact at a party really a bad thing? I don't think it is. I'm not harming anyone by doing so. It's just different. I want a world where everyone treats me and other autistic people like how Marissa, Kasen, Suika, and all the others treat Reimu. And hopefully, we can all make that world. Thanks for watching.